In this video, I want to talk about some non-fiction books for Nonfiction November that you actually should consider picking up, because there is always these books that everyone recommends. It's the same titles over and over and over again. But I have 5 books here that I want to recommend that are, no one to talk about them, but they are really, really great. So they're on a bunch of different topics, but hopefully there's something you can find there that you can read in this fantastic Nonfiction November month. Let's go. Okay, let's just jump right into it. The first book is Straw Dogs by John Gray. Thoughts on Humans and Other Animals. This is a book that is a brutal assault on humanism. It is a book that actually was quite thought-provoking, and it made me have a hard time to sleep, because it assaults everything that we so commonly believe about humans, that we are special, that we are accepted from the rules of nature. These books try to have us understand that we are just like other animals. There's nothing special about it. It's a quite convincing argument, even though I've kind of recovered from the depression that it gave me to begin with. I don't see many people talking about this book, but I know that everyone that have read it, it has had a profound effect on them. And it takes a while to recover from it. It's a book that shows us how delusional we are as humans. A book well worth a read. Secondly, we have the Netocrats. This is a bit of a bizarre book recommendation. I think it's about 20 years old now. And it was published in the advent of the internet. These two philosophers, Alexander Bard and Jon Söderqvist, they were looking into the future. They understood that the internet will change human behavior and how society works, and they put out a prediction for how the society would work in the information age. It's fun to read this 20 years later, because there's so many things in this book that was predicted about the internet and information era that actually have come true. I read this book and it really just blew my mind. The Netocrats. Check it out. It has another name as well. It's called Netocracy. So if you can't find it when you search for this title, then look at I'll put the things you can search for here, and we'll just go on with the list. Coffee break. Okay, this book, Finite and Infinite Games by James P. Cars. Simon Sinek, he has done another book called Infinite something, which is more of a popular business self-help book, but it's based on James Carr's work. The idea of in this book is quite simple. There are finite games and infinite games. Finite games are games with set rules, determined players, and a clear objective. These are things like a football game, a court case, a college education. These are processes with clear rules and boundaries and clear definition of who the players are. But there is also infinite games. But the problem is that we sometimes play infinite games like they were finite games. And that's where the most important lesson from this book comes in, that there are infinite games that we play just for the games to keep going on. A business is like this. A business exists so that the business can continue to exist. A career is also not a finite game, but an infinite game that you want just to continue and continue to evolve. But sometimes we misunderstand this concept and we make infinite games finite. For instance, if I'm a YouTuber who talks about books, for instance, I might focus and compete with some other YouTuber, and when that person has success, I get a little bit sad, or I compare myself with that person, but we're actually not competing with each other, right? We both play our own infinite game separately, and there's actually no competition at all. But going into that finite mindset might actually influence our decisions and make them more short-term for something that's actually supposed to be long-term and ongoing. It's an interesting philosophy book. I have a full review of this, and actually of most of these books, and you can see them in the description below. And if you like the content on this channel, then like this and subscribe. That makes sure that when I put out a new video, it will pop up in your feed. And I cover books like this all the time, every week. So join the fun. The next book is another book I don't think I've ever seen this book pop up in any of my book-related social media feeds. It's Stuff. Compulsive Hoarding and the Meaning of Things. I listened to this book as an audiobook. I tend to listen to books if they are available on Audible, because it's just so handy that you can listen to them while you're on a commute or on a walk, or if you're doing chores, right? So it's very accessible that way. This book is about compulsive hoarding, and I don't know what it is about compulsive hoarding that interests me. I'm not a hoarder myself, but I've seen those shows that were on TV before where they go into hoarders' home, and it's just fascinated me. And this is about the psychology behind collecting so much stuff that you might even get buried in your own home, or your house crashes through the ground because of the weight. This book explores these characters, these hoarders, and also the psychology behind it. I think this is a very refreshing non-fiction read that you should check out. The last book that I have here is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This book is not a long read as it looks here. I just managed to order the big print version, which is good because actually my sight is not perfect anymore. I was at the eye doctor yesterday and realized that I have some pretty severe issues with my vision, but enough of that. This book is about a journalist that goes looking for this girl, Henrietta Lacks. And what makes Henrietta Lacks so special is because she had the genes, the HeLa genes, that have actually revolutionized medicine and science, because they were immortal. Just by providing them with some nutrients, they would live in and multiply in labs forever, allowing us to do experiments on it and ship it to different labs. Actually, there's HeLa cells all over the world now, and it's great to experiment on this. And they contributed to the development of the polio virus, not the virus, but the vaccine, for instance. And this is the story about the person behind these immortal genes. And it's a pretty sad story because that person was unfairly treated and never compensated for the $1 million business that her gene started. So it's a little bit about social injustices between blacks and whites, and the medical establishment, and consent from patients. So it's just a really one of those non-fiction books that reads like fiction. This is it's just a page turner. I really love this book. I don't see too many people talk about it. You should pick it up if you like this kind of, it's almost a true crime, but also science and slightly political. It's a great book. Those were the books that I would like to recommend. I hope you enjoyed the list. It's a little bit ad hoc, this whole segment that I did. Let me know in the comments that if you have any like non-fiction books that that just blow your mind, that not enough people are talking about, because I love to find those gems. See you in a couple of days with more book reviews. The next book review I'm going to put out is Scarcity Brain by Michael Eastern, and that's a book that you really want to know more about, but more about that next week. Happy reading. Björn out.